Welcome to the Voices of Our Veterans. I'm Leslie Farnham with the Honoring All Veterans Memorial, and today I'm honored to have Tom Fitzhenry with me, and he's going to share a bit about his experiences in the service. So thank you for being with me here today, Tom.
You're welcome.
Well, tell me a little bit, let's start, what motivated you to go into the service, and please share what branch you went into.
Okay, so most of my family was in the service. Sorry, I had to clear my throat. Most of my family was in the service. I had, my father was, my uncle was, I had a relative that was actually in Pearl Harbor when it was bombed on the USS California. Only thing that saved his tail was he was at church the time they were bombed below decks, but he got off the ship and it later sunk. And so we got a lot of military history in my family. I also, when I was younger, joined the Civil Air Patrol as a cadet, very young, as a teen. And that was intriguing to me because it's military style, very, very neat because I got to play with airplanes and that. So they're an auxiliary of the Air Force, and I had intent to go into the Air Force. But what happened then is Vietnam War came up. Everybody's scared to go into that. I had checked with all the branches of the service to see what they had available, and of course everybody was enlisting at that time to stay away from certain branches. And the branch that I talked to was the Navy, and the Navy had me take the ASVAB and everything, and they said, oh, you can be an air traffic controller. So I thought, well, that sounds better than marching on the ground with a rifle in my hand. So ended up signing or getting everything ready except signing the contract, because I was already I just had gotten into Air Force ROTC at St. Thomas, but they were giving no guarantees and no waivers at that time. So then people back in Vietnam here knew they did your birth date on a ping pong ball.
Yep.
And so what happened, mine popped up as number 67. I went, oof, that isn't going to go well. So I went over and signed a contract with the Navy, did a delayed entry, finished my 1 year with the ROTC, and then went directly into the Navy after that. So that's what kind of motivated me.
So lots of great family and lots of history in there, and I'm sure they were really proud of you.
Yeah, they were, and it was kind of funny. My dad, when he joined back in the times, he only finished 8th grade, and his family didn't have a whole lot of money, and him and his brother Don both tried to join the service, were too young, but they got in the Merchant Marines younger. So they went into the Merchant Marines and served some time there, and they could have actually probably got a deferment from the draft because in the Merchant Marines, no, but they had to join the Air Force. And then because of the Private Ryan law, they couldn't go to the same spot. So my dad ended up in Alaska, and my uncle ended up in Germany. But it was kind of interesting to see that. We traced his steps in Alaska, and that was really intriguing.
Well, so what are some of the traits or values that you gained from your time in service that you're proud of today?
The big thing is learning how to survive by myself. You know, you're a young kid running around, don't know what's going on. So joining the Navy actually taught me a lot about being by yourself, because we went to a lot of home ports and that were kind of neat but you were on your own. There was nobody there to tell you what to do. So that was cool. And then obviously being an air traffic controller, and I was at a carrier, and there's a good story about when I reported on the carrier. I'll tell you that later. But so I was on a carrier that was out in the Mediterranean and learned about all sorts of things I never thought I'd learn about. Firefighting also, because when you're on a carrier, especially the one I was on, which I'll explain later, you learn about damage control, firefighting, and that. I met a lot of different people. It's not just aviation people, it was the sailors that run the ship and that. And so it was really interesting to get into that and learn a lot from a lot of different people. And there was older people and younger people. And sometimes the younger people might be higher ranked than you and that. And it was interesting to, okay, who's ever in charge, I'll just follow.
Yeah, because if they've come out of
Yep.
schooling and out of officer training and come in and they might be younger than you. Yeah, so lots of great things. Well, you mentioned kind of some stories on the carrier and things. So what is, a really impactful memory, something that's carried with you?
So right out of school, I got assigned to a ship. The ship happened to be the USS Forrestal. So reading about the USS Forrestal, I looked back in 1867 where it caught fire and there was 134 people killed on it. McCain was on the ship too. Not his fault though. Everybody says it wasn't. And so I go, okay, I'm going to a ship, nicknamed the USS Zippo. The day I report to it in the yards, it's on fire again. So I'm going, okay, what do I...
That's the fire training.
Yeah, so, well, that's what happened is, so it's on fire again, so I had to go report to the Naval Air Station because obviously couldn't get on the ship. So then, while I was there, I went through the firefighting training, the damage control and that, because they said everybody going on ship is going to do that. But once it settled down, it actually ended up being a person setting it on fire because they didn't want to go on a cruise.
And they didn't want to go out.
Yeah, they repaired it, and we ended up getting extended, so we ended up going for a year. Home port out of Athens, Greece. But while we were over there, learned a lot of things about culture and different things. I actually got a Greek driver's license, so I could drive around there. But a couple things on the carrier. It's a kind of a dangerous place. People don't realize it. We got about almost 5,000 people running around on a small ship. Went through a hurricane that the bow of the ship is 67 feet above water, and the bow was dipping into the waves.
Oh.
So I remember I didn't get sick, probably because of my flying. And
the flying.
Yeah, so it was great. Nobody was in the chow hall. And not a lot of people, there wasn't much going on. You couldn't even go out on decks because of the winds and that. So it wasn't too bad, but the neat thing was when we pulled in the eye of the storm, there was tornadoes all around us, or water spouts, and it was kind of cool to see. But I learned a lot about, the way Navy does things, and it was interesting to watch how fast they come in. As a controller, you got to be on your game because literally they're 30 seconds apart in coming in on that. So that was kind of neat, interesting. And then after the Navy, after I got out of active duty, I got back to Minneapolis, and we were supposed to always drill up at Glenview, Illinois, and we had to fly every weekend. Well, there was a Air National Guard facility that was running in Anoka County Airport. And me and a couple of guys went up there and visited, and we figured out, why are we going to Glenview, Illinois when we go help them? So we started helping them, and they found out that both me and him had more credentials than they did as far as our training, because we were both tower qualified, radar qualified. So we ended up working at Anoka County, and I ended up being in charge of the RACCON unit, which is radar approach control. Very sophisticated, because I'd been trained in school. Well, one day the lieutenant colonel came up to me and said, "This doesn't make sense. A Navy guy's running an Air Force facility. Why don't you get rid of the Dixie Cup hat and join us?" And so they did, and they promoted me another rank. So then I went in the Guard and had a great time in the Guard. Did a lot of interesting things. And what I like about the Guard, you're serving the United States here and your community here. And by being out at the airport, we were serving a great aviation community there. Got to know a lot of pilots. And the most interesting thing is, while we were up there, it would get boring. So I had a game on a Commodore 64 called Kennedy Approach. It was kind of like the most archaic game for air traffic control. And we flew, we actually got, it was good for timing and that, and we had fun. Well, then they came out with a game called RACCON, and it was more sophisticated, had radar and everything. So a couple of us looked at it and said, we could use this for training when no planes are out there. It hooked up the flight simulator. So we'd have one of our guys pretending he's the airplane, and then we'd watch him on radar, guide him in. So then we thought, let's make a training facility with this. So we made a training facility, developed everything, went to Oshkosh, talked to the developers, and actually got permission to change the files so we could make it any airspace in the world.
Cool.
So the military found out about this, came and visited, and Iraq was just spilling, or Iran and Iraq were spilling up. So they asked, could you actually develop airspace for people going over there so they could be trained here before they got over there? And we worked at it, we did, and we sent some people through it, and I got a meritorious service award for it, and so did people with me, because now we had developed a program where they could learn here and go over there, and within a few days they were already certified. So that was the coolest thing, and we got a pat on the back, and then because of it I got a free trip to England, and we were over in England. It just happened to be the day we were in this base is the day they bombed Gaddafi, so I got to watch the aircraft take off for that. So I've been so lucky in the service, it's been unbelievable.
Yeah, and you've served in many ways,
Yep.
so it's a lot in there. So you really have been, well, and it is because you kind of went into Guard. So think of your times you've been very active as active duty and as a Guard member. But now, and I know you've also been very active as a veteran. So think about what you've given back to your community and what being a veteran and wearing that veteran hat has meant to you, and especially kind of with your Civil Air Patrol and all you do with that.
So when I did retire out of the Guard, mainly because my unit went away, but I wanted to stay involved, so I got back in the Civil Air Patrol, that group that originally got me started. I had 2 kids involved, and an old buddy of mine who was the wing commander at the time said, you need to get back in CAP. So I did, and it's probably the best thing. I'd suggest every veteran stay involved. And we in CAP, our senior group, I mean, we have people that were well into their 90s and that actually were in CAP when CAP started as a cadet in 1941.
Yeah.
It's our 80th anniversary this year. And we got fighter pilots, all sorts of people in it, and we stay active by supporting the new group of cadets, telling them what we had to go through, what they have to go through. We support them by doing missions. I've been on 3 or 4 missions this year. We had one save of a person that was lost. So I fly a lot of missions with Civil Air Patrol. I get to fly and I get to help the people, so I am so happy. And actually, I'm going to go flying right after this interview. So
Awesome, awesome. Well, and that person that you helped rescue, very grateful for your continued action in that. So, what advice would you give the current veterans in the community as they, and maybe they're younger ones, folks that are just coming out of the service, maybe they've been out a few years and haven't really known what to do. What advice would you give them?
the biggest advice is stay in contact with the other vets. There's some veterans maybe haven't had the best experience, and sometimes the other veterans can help you out. That's kind of a group of people I love to belong to, and in Civil Air Patrol, if I find a guy's a veteran, I'll ask him to join. We get them back up in the air again. We get them involved in, because their basic knowledge of what's going on, and they can help the cadets. And it's really interesting to see, they come in at 12 years old, and we got, barely can tie their shoes, to where at the end, they're very polished. They've already probably flown an airplane several times. They get to go in gliders. They've been on search and rescue missions. Currently, we're doing COVID items, we're helping with COVID.
Help and deliver.
We did PPE. Now we're helping at the vaccination places, funneling people around. We did have aircraft delivering, the vaccines. So, and they can stay enthused. And, with today's technology, they're involved in cybersecurity. They're involved in, actually flying aircraft, knowing how they work, ground team searching. We do 95% of the inland search and rescue for the United States. So usually about 16-year-old could be involved in actually saving somebody's life. And if they're even close to being involved, you should see the hoorays you get. So.
They're in there. Well, wonderful. Well, any parting words that you have before we sign off?
I would just say I'm glad for the All Veterans Memorial. And the reason being is I like to honor people, but I honored my 3 children that were, so in the end, All Veterans Memorial is my father's name, who got me started, then me, and then my 3 children on there who I prompted to get involved in the military. And so it's a living legacy for me, or a legacy forever for me and my family to show that we serve.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much for spending your afternoon with me. And thank you all for taking some time to listen to Tom's story. We encourage you to stop by the Honoring All Veterans Memorial in Veterans Park right here in Richfield on Portland. And if you have a veteran that you'd like to honor, please reach out to us and share their name. We're happy to have them join and listen to their story too.